why someone, because I don't think people generally explain, it's an odd position to be in. And it's really odd because I think, basic psychiatry tells you, or at least amongst the people that I've watched in my life, people would rather, you'd rather be in a relationship, a fulfilling relationship. At least that's what my psychiatrist tells me. And then, because we're always having an argument, I'm going, what's the matter with these people? Why is it just me? Well, because most people like to do that. Then people would rather be in a terrible relationship than be single. It's really weird. I mean, it's bizarre, because there's a consistency to a shitty relationship.
There are now 8 billion people on the planet.
7. Well, maybe you were out there this afternoon.
What do you think?
7 billion? Not enough. Not enough. The only time we're going to figure it out is when we're toe-to-toe. Everybody's stuck. When everybody's stuck, and then we'll go, oh boy, let's maybe want to think about this. Then it'll be an emergency. I think it's stupid that we still don't have rockets going into space. I'm big on that. I don't care. I mean, it's probably because when I was a kid I saw us go to the moon. Yeah. But I'm big on that because it takes it away from here. It's like, oh look, maybe someday. I really don't want to live in other countries and stuff, but another planet?
Well, I'm a big fan, but my question is, were you always the cynical and like 10, and 11, and when you first started out in comedy, I mean, was this always your persona, or did you try to, do circus clowns or?
No, and I find circus clowns disturbing. And when they show up in my dreams, I got that stuff. I have to say, this is totally an aside, it's only because I really should have gotten sleep today. But one of the greatest things I've ever heard, I had performed with someone at a comedy club. This is early on, this is 20 years ago, in a tiny little club in Jersey. You drive out, and it was me and this guy, and we finished performing, and he was an odd guy. And I said to my agent at the time, I said, it was fun, but he's a little strange sometimes. He said, well, he went to Barnum and Bailey Clown School. And I've never heard anything like this. And he was raped by clowns. That's a nugget you can take home. Merry Christmas. That was like, I literally, my eyes flooded in my head. I figured anybody who showed up at 6 o'clock probably gets what I'm talking about. But I was pretty cynical. Probably started by about the time I was 15. I mean, it started, I've talked about it. It started when I saw Harvest of Shame when I was 12. My parents were, most parents would protect me from this stuff. My parents were senseless. Oh, here. But seriously, my earliest remembrance of television was, and this is not an exaggeration or made up, I remember watching the Army McCarthy hearings. How insufferable is that? And 36 days of it? I'm sitting, my mother's turning it on every afternoon, and I'm watching it. I don't know what it means, but I know that it's weird. And I know that there should be cartoons in my life. And then there was, so I saw Harvest of Shame when I was 12. I started, and then I just started picking up on things that I thought were unjust. And it made no sense. And it really, and then I lived in D.C., so I've got the Capitol in my face the whole time. And every year, it doesn't matter, every year without even like a clock, the Washington Post with a big, huge article, here's the government, and behind the government were the worst slums in the United States. Yeah. And how could this be? But it was like every year. It was like, but how could this be? And how could this be? And how could this be? And my mother was really my mother literally was really cynical, and my father gave me Catch-22 when I was sitting laughing at Catch-22. I mean, my father actually would sit and read at night, which is pretty astonishing, and he was laughing at this thing, and this book, and I said, should I read it? He said, yeah, this is a great book. You should read it. It'll tell you everything you need to know about living in this country. And I read it, and it really, it affected me. And I had these friends who were really very funny and really sarcastic, and I mean, in a very, and so the people that I hung out with, if you really we had somebody early on, I guess we were the 9th grade, and someone killed themselves. Somebody hung themselves, some classmate. Now we'd only, we didn't know each other very well. It was the 9th grade. We only been at school a couple of weeks, and these friends of mine immediately started making cartoons about him killing himself and basically trying to come up with explanations. And they were really dark and seriously funny. And today, if we'd been caught with those books, we'd be in some sort of holiday camp in order for us to get on track and balanced. But that was the people I hung out with, and so I've always kind of had that. But it was mostly because I was hopeful. I always was optimistic.
Time for maybe 2 more questions.
Okay.
What do you think of the Democratic Party? I know you face the big country.
I think they're horrific. I think they're the most horrific group of people. I think they're more horrific in some senses than the Republicans. Because that's the side I was raised on. And it's like they're all sitting on the bench going, no, you go in, no, you go in, no, you go in. They're chicken, they're mealy-mouthed, they are as much to blame for whatever's occurred. Everybody always used to yell about Bush, but they didn't do anything. Their job, they don't even do it now. Their job was to be, before we went into Iraq, it was like, what's your job? Your job is to be, doesn't matter, pretend. But the opposition party, so kind of pretend that you really are against it, and then go, oh, you won, okay? And then raise your hand. But they didn't even do it. They didn't do the basic stuff that they're supposed to do. I think they've been in disarray. I think from the moment that McCarthy decided, when McCarthy ran, and we found out that he really wasn't interested in being the president. That's what the Democrats have been like. And I feel that way about Obama. I feel like he got in and went, oh man, this was a mistake. And because he hasn't put his foot down. And he should have done it. He's had 10 chances to do it. And I don't know why he hasn't done it. I find it really disturbing. And the last one being when they were screwing around with the government. Whether we're going to the payout, and we had to have a vote on it, and he could have signed something and gone around them, and he shouldn't. It's enough's enough. I mean, I don't know at what point you don't get that you do. And that he too, in the Democrats in their own way, the Tea Party is what, max 20% of the max 20% of the country. 47% of the country doesn't know who's running, doesn't know the name of anyone running on the Republican side. 47%. So there's a lot of people who just don't care. And boy, do I get that. I fully comprehend that. But it can't be anymore, and they're allowing that 20% to run the ballpark. And it's the same thing they did when I was a kid in the 60s. We had an inordinate amount of power for a very small group of people. They gave us way too much power. And this group is being given way too much power. And they dress up like Ben Franklin, and that's wrong.
Other than resurrecting Reagan, if you could pick the president, who would it be?
No, you mean resurrecting him, you mean, it's my joke, you mean take him out?
Yeah, other than that.
You mean, and because Who would it be?
Yeah, if you could pick president from any person in the country.
Now, or do they have to be alive?
Well, yeah, fair enough. Let's go with the
There ain't anybody that's alive. I mean, that I can. Colbert. I would have. He's such a Catholic. He is. He's a super Catholic. I love telling people that. And he is. And good for him. But wow. I got a friend too who's a super Catholic. I love those people. They're the best. I mean, talk about faith. That's people who bring out madness. But no, I don't. I really don't. FDR is the. I mean, I don't know anybody. I mean, who? I mean, it's a really dismal group, and it gets no better. And it really is, and it's very shameful in terms of my generation. My generation really came up with no leaders, none. And Clinton's like, I would take, Clinton's a really good Republican. I mean, that's what he was a great, and I'll take him. I'd take him back, and that's what we're all saying. Oh, bring him back. He was great. No, he was a really solid Republican. And Nixon, if you go back, you cut off, you take out him getting, because if Vietnam wasn't there, he wouldn't have been in Vietnam because he wouldn't have thought of it. But if you take that out, his social stuff is right on time. Who knew that? I thought he was such a prick. No, I have to totally reevaluate. Let me one more.
Quick one thing. As a comic who almost ran away with the circus, thank you for your comment. Now I know I made the right decision.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to know, as you were coming up the ranks in comedy, did you ever worry about trying to balance your own voice with the whole machine of comedy, or did you just kind of wing it?
No, I didn't really balance. Do I look balanced? I just did. I did. And then I did it for a long time. I never thought I'd be a comic. I was doing it on the side. I thought I was going to be a playwright. That's the level of delusion I was thinking. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to really find the Shroud of Turin. The real Shroud of Turin. And I'm going to devote my life to it. No, but I was a playwright, and then I did this on the side for fun. So by the time they caught up with me, and started to kind of go, clubs were interested in me. Then I just took what I had and put it, and then I watched people around me who were really good, like the people I worked with initially were Mario Cantone and Dennis Leary and Kevin Meaney, and they were all really kind of theatrical in the sense like I was, and I learned a lot watching it. Oh, I can do this is what I can do to make that. And I kind of learned how to take what I was doing, and that's where I really learned, was for those guys, the other comics, not, in the audience. But I certainly didn't learn it by, going in and thinking, oh boy, CBS is really going to help me.
Did you have any candy corn on Monday?
No. No. Well, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any recommendations to anybody who wants to pursue stand-up comedy?
Yeah, I mean, outside of suicide. No, I mean, seriously, I don't think I think what I always did was you find spaces where you have like-minded people working. There's a ton of spaces in New York to do stand-up now. The first thing I do is you get a group of people that like you, and have them go in and watch you do it in front, and so you get so that you get a chunk of the audience of your friends, and make it as comfortable as possible. And then after you suffer through that, and find out if, and see what they think, and see what what you think of it, and then you just find these spaces, and you go and you stand up and you do it. I mean, really. And you can there's a couple of courses you can take, that I think are pretty legit. Like Scott Blakeman still teaches at the New School. He's terrific, and you can pursue it that way. But I really think what I did was just go from place to place, and, I mean, I was playing in really weird little rooms back then, and there weren't a lot of them. I didn't work in comedy clubs, and I'd work the weird rooms until I felt comfortable and said, okay, I'll go see what's at the comedy club. And then I would, you know, and then if you're not, if comedy's your bent, then you also, I would write what you're doing. You know, if you're gonna write your stuff, there's two approaches to stand up. One is to write it all down, and the other is what I do, which is just yak. And so if you're a writer, write it all down, because if you may end up being able to use the writing to sell yourself as a writer. And yeah.
What was the worst audience you've ever had?
The worst audience, this. Usually it's much bigger and people are jumping up and down.
Was it at the start of your career?
But the worst audience was partly because of me. I mean, we still get, Sarasota, Florida. Still, yeah. I've played there twice. I'm going back again because I just am stunned. I feel like maybe an EKG, just put an EKG up and I can watch the heart flips everywhere. They're not mean, they're just kind of, really, it's odd. But no, the worst audience was, but it wasn't their fault, it was just what we did, that was in Washington, D.C., and it was the group of comics who all went on, a lot of them, I mean, most of them went on to be known as writers, really, and we were all new to it. I've been doing it a while longer, and we're doing these Friday and Saturday nights, about every 2 weeks, in front of a blue-collar Washington crowd at really what was the edge in Anacostia, which was an iffy neighborhood, which still kind of is, right there. And these are the people who make Wonder Bread and stuff. These are the people I describe the audience as people who, the kind of person you hang out with, and they have like 2 or 3 like whiskeys, and then their skin becomes leather. They really, we were the last, and they had a country and western band with a guy named Tiny, who weighed so much he couldn't stand. He had to sit on the edge of the stage, and they just hated us. And it was I loved everybody. They had every right to hate us, and I thought, wow, this is really good. They were kicking us right in the teeth. And the guy said the best heckle I ever had, and when we got to start signing stuff, is he said that. He said, well, that was like 2/3 of the act. He said, you know, I think I'd really like you to go home. I'd like you to get off the stage now and go home and start gargling with razor blades. I laughed so hard. I literally doubled over laughing. And I said, that's better than anything I've ever thought of. So I left the stage. I really appreciate you guys coming down this evening.
Thank you all for coming. Those who'd like your books signed, please stay in your rows, because we're going to release the rows one row at a time. Get your books out, and the gentleman in the blue sweater is going to take your camera if you'd like to take pictures. So, he's going to confiscate your camera. I don't know. I'm going to ask the first row come up. If you could take your things and line up to the right of my